talking about getting sprayed, Phil, I don't want to argue with you. So I want you to just chime in a little bit on Junior, who took the meeting with the Russian lawyer, right? And here's my problem. He should have not said anything. He should have got somebody to speak for him, because he's changed the story 4 times, right? And I think he's sandbagged himself, because the press, that's what they're looking for, as you're well aware, right? And you're not a big fan of the press either.
No, I'm not.
So, Phil, do you not believe that he should have just let somebody speak for himself on something?
You said he took a meeting with a lawyer. It was a woman, wasn't it?
Yes. He took a lawyer. First, it was for one thing. First, he didn't know her. Now the story is that they did know her. They met her.
Well, I don't know about that. It doesn't matter, but that's all I can tell you. Let me ask you a question, and all you guys. If you're doing this and you're running for election, and somebody says something and calls you, and you know, or calls, okay, this time he called Donald Trump Jr., or she called Donald Trump Jr., and emailed her, and said, I have tremendous dirt on Hillary Clinton, or, okay, Frank, you're running for your thing, and I got tremendous dirt on your competitor. Do you take the meeting?
I wouldn't, but I would send some people there. So I would send people to see if there was any. I would send people to see if there was any validity.
Well, that's what Junior did.
Yeah, but my point is that right now, if the meeting happened, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, let me ask you this: do you really believe the Russians had something to do with the election in the United States?
No, I think Donald Trump won fair and square.
And if you fucking tell me that Donald Trump had no idea and did not know about this meeting, I say bullshit.
I agree. And
a micromanager, and there's no fucking way his kid, all employees of him, even though it's his son, I emphasize the word employees of him, are going to do something, especially of that caliber, without his okay.
I agree 100%. And the fact that he's perpetuating it is an insult to everyone except those who work on CNN.
Well, CNN is doing their job to peddle shit. You know, they say the same story over and over and over, you know. And Fox does the same thing, you know. If they both present the story back and forth. But you know what I've noticed in the last 10 days? That if you take a look at Fox's news part, not the commentary part, right? Not the Hannity and the other guys. If you take a look at their news broadcast, their version of the news, it is kind of not as complimentary and protective of Donald Trump anymore.
Well, it shouldn't be. I mean,
well, it was. It was almost blatantly protective, like CNN is blatantly anti-Trump. Like you cannot not see that CNN hates his guts.
Yeah, but you have to have some balance, Frank, or whatever you do. And CNN has none. And I assume that I don't watch Fox up here, but I watch it down there. I know what they do. They're protecting the Republican right, and
yeah, but that's been going on for 100 years, and I accept it, and I don't think that there's a problem with that. You know, in Toronto, the newspapers, they'll either go liberal or they'll go conservative. You know, some papers are very blatant about who they're supporting, and some are not. Perry knows that better than I do.
Yeah, but here I'm going to give you if the day that Fox tries to get a little bit too aggressive, then they won't get access to Trump. Now they get access to Trump, all of his surrogates. CNN gets nothing. They may get Kellyanne Conway. Big deal.
Well, Kellyanne Conway is the most annoying human being I've ever fucking seen on television. The other day, she's more patronizing than Barney, the purple dinosaur.
I don't understand, maybe I'm a fucking moron, why Canada had the responsibility to pay this money.
And that's a lot.
Okay, here's my interpretation.
No, it's not.
10.5 million.
So you're fucking telling me?
Oh no! Don't.
Somebody took half of your life.
Yeah.
It's not worth $10 million.
Can I continue? I'm watching the NBC News, CBS, ABC. I tape them all, and they've got the guy the soldier, the U.S. soldier who's
You
blind.
still tape stuff? You got a video machine?
No, it's a PVR. Don't you ever heard of a PVR where you
Well,
can
you
tape
said
things?
tape. You said tape.
It's, oh my God.
Record.
Fast forward on this. Go ahead.
There's the soldier who was blind in one eye,
saw
who was
it.
hit by,
I saw it.
and he's going to be all over the news tonight. And then NBC, they
Well,
say, you won't
they're
believe, let me finish.
they're
You
gonna
won't
sue him.
believe who's paid $10 million in insurance money for this guy. And I'm like, I got to tune that in. The
But-
shit fan, it's about a hit, man.
I'm just telling you that Canada did what they felt was right in a lawsuit that was against the Canadians. That was a lawsuit against the Canadians. It was not a lawsuit against
and
the
the Supreme Court, Frank, ruled twice that the government of Canada had
was liable.
contravened
Was liable. Was liable.
human rights.
That's
and
right.
so Trudeau's saying we're going to lose anyway. They got a $20 million lawsuit. I'm going to settle with them for
No, but I disagree.
That's what,
Bill, I disagree with you, and I disagree with the fucking press on this. Trudeau had no skin in this. The Supreme Court of Canada gave judgment in favor of the plaintiff,
So again,
not the defendant.
who is the
Trudeau-
defendant? Canada. Trudeau cut the deal. He said, "You know
No, he
what?
did
We're gonna-
not.
We're going to lose. Give them $10 million,
He did
and it's
not.
over."
He
They
did-
did not want to go to court. This thing could
The
have gone
Attorney
to court.
General, I disagree with you. The way I read this, the Attorney General of Canada, which represents the legal interests of our country, not the Prime Minister, they went back and forth. It was a 30 million plus lawsuit, right? So they brought it to the Supreme Court of Canada to see, number one, this is the way my interpretation of this is. If I'm wrong, text us, tweet us, whatever the fuck you want to do. The Supreme Court of Canada, it was brought to them to say, here's the lawsuit. You know, they brought it to the highest court of our country. This is the lawsuit. This is the dollar amount. What do you want to do? So it was out of the hands of the Attorney General, it was out of the hands of the lawyer. The lawyer for this gentleman agreed to put it in the judgment of the court, and so did the Attorney General. And twice, the Supreme Court of Canada, our highest court, awarded him the $10 million.
No, they didn't, Frank. There was.
They gave him judgment.
What do you want? You want to make the deal now, $10 million, or you want to go to court?
They gave him the judgment. They gave him the judgment.
Who represents the attorney? The Attorney General.
But the Supreme Court of Canada is the one that said that the guy deserved the judgment.
Yes, that we know.
Then they came up with the number.
contravened his rights. That's all, Frank.
And this guy, the difference between Nixon and Trump, in my view, my modest view, is Trump believes that he's not accountable to anybody, not even God.
Do you know that Trump once met Nixon, like way so far time ago? Nixon looked at him and says, "I think someday you're going to become president of the United States."
Did he really?
This is a true story.
No, I mean, he must have given a lot of money to the Republican Party because, he's one of those guys that goes to the racetrack and bets on every horse in the race because he figures one's going to win.
That's right. Now, by the way, I said that story based on what Donald Trump had said, so for all we know, it could be a total lie anyway.
I
But
would
that-
say it's a pile of
but
shit.
that's
You're
his
not gonna-
version.
You're not going to exhume Richard Nixon and then shove electrodes in if there's any brain matter left to see if that information's stored. I'm pretty sure it's a bullshit story.
I think Nixon in when the break-in happened, he had just won the 72 election by a landslide. He just got selfish. The whole team did. Why would he bug the
It
opposition?
doesn't matter. I don't want to debate that. And I don't know what his mindset is. All I'm telling you is that he ruined his legacy. He ruined his legacy, and it's disgusting that that's the way he went down in flames, and led the rest of his life in the country that he loved the most, his country, a country that he served, in exile. He was in exile in his own country.
So let's roll the dice now. What's going to happen first? Does Trump fire Mueller just like Nixon did?
He's not going to fire Mueller.
As Nixon did it.
I'm telling you right now, he's not going to fire Mueller. And I'm telling you right now, I really like this new guy who's the head of the FBI. I loved what he said yesterday. He said that if the president told him to do something, the question was asked. If the president, now who the fuck in all my life, in any of these things says, is the president trying to tell you to commit a crime? to the guy who's being vetted as the fucking head of the FBI or head of the CIA?
He had a great answer, though. He
said he would try to talk him out of it first.
Great answer.
And if he couldn't, he would resign right there and then.
Loved it.
The point of the matter is, that's my contention. Number one, it was a very poor way of being a parent to do what the father did.
But what they're saying, the Canadian Constitution, the way our federal judicial system works, is that under the age of a certain thing, if it was 16 or 18, this would have been a different scenario.
But not, Frank, I'm saying number one, that Constitution needs to be rewritten. Number two, it didn't happen in Canada. It happened in another country.
But Justin Trudeau, I think, again, I'm not a huge fan, but I'd rather take him over the other guy. But I'm not a huge fan. But
Who's the other guy? Scheer?
No, I'm talking about
Stephen
the guy
Harper.
in the South.
Okay.
He loves Trudeau, by the way, Frank.
Which depends which day it is.
He says he's doing such a nice job for people up in Canada. You're very lucky.
It depends.
Jesus Christ, come on up and have a sniff.
It depends which day.
Yeah.
Trump likes him Monday, hates him on Wednesday.
Do you not think in the G20 summit behind closed doors, Donald Trump looked at Trudeau and read him like with every possible curse word you can say? He just basically took one of his citizens receives money at the expense of two of Donald Trump's citizens, particularly the wife. Do you not think behind closed doors?
I think out of a negative you turn it into a positive. O.J. Simpson, right, got away with murder, but in civil court, the Goldman family bankrupted him and put him to the brink of desperation, and that's why he's in prison now, because he lost his mind in Vegas when somebody was selling memorabilia that wasn't authorized by him.
What an idiot.
And,
oh my God.
Yeah, but also, he could, I believe in karma, he could have got out of it. They gave him a plea bargain, a 2-year plea bargain. He fought it, and the judge threw the hammer on him. But
OJ turned 70 on this past Sunday.
But the judge threw the hammer because there was a plea bargain.
Yeah.
He would have been out in 2,
Right.
But he felt that he could beat that, so the judge nailed him. So
And the judge nailed him for the exact amount of time he would have gotten for the Nicole Brown
he would have
Goldman.
got-
No. The exact same year amount.
I would have got more than that.
Well, how many did he get?
He got 13 years. He would have got more than that.
First off, what do you think of the 45-degree turn that Donald Trump took in the press conference in Paris with the president of France, when a journalist I'd say sideways a great question, saying, you're praising Paris and talking great about it, and you bashed it pretty good during your campaign, and you've said a lot of bad things about Paris. Have you changed your mind?
What did he say? I didn't see it. What did he say, Frank?
Well, he said what he always says. He's got amnesia. He said Paris is great. He loves it. He says the president of Paris, the president of France, is a great guy, beautiful guy, sweet guy, great guy. He's going to do great things, and he loves Paris. He's going to come back. And when he comes back, better stay good, or else everybody's going to make him look bad. Which one of the reporters said he doesn't need anybody else to make him look bad. He does it pretty good by himself.
Don said Paris isn't Paris anymore.
Yep. But he also said, Paris was overrun by immigrants and terrorists.
So this is what I'm telling you. I believe that this is not over. This is not over yet for the awardee of $10 million. I believe that he'll be sued.
Yes, that we know. Will they be able to get the money is another story. They will sue
I think the Canadians have washed their hands. They've done their part, just like the criminal court did with O.J. Simpson. They washed their hands. He got judged by his peers. That civil court took care of him, and then it cornered him. It painted him in a corner where he was completely desperate, and that's why he did 13 years in a maximum penitentiary. So what I'm saying to you is, I think that this gentleman here, it's going to be a short-lived reward and win for him because of the negativity.
It already is.
Yeah.
But now it's going to go to the next extreme. Well,
yeah,
now these
well,
people who
I'm
actually
not-
were owed money when basically he was sued,
100%.
they won money. I can't remember how much. Like, it could be more than 100 million. I can't remember the exact amount.
100%.
They never got a dime.
Yeah, so that $10 million will be short-lived. And I want to say something. I understand the anger over this. I understand, I really do. And I think that it is a point in our lives right now with the amount of terrorism that's gone on in Paris, in Germany, in Brussels, and in England, right? It's a real sore spot.
By the way, Frank, I was hoping you were being studio. Be that as may, you're not. In the same paper in which you had your ad publicizing your movie, here is a full-page ad. Apology to the widow and family of Sergeant Christopher Spear and Sergeant Lane Morris. Basically saying what a bunch of bull what Canada did. Now, we've been over and over this, so I don't want to digress on it anymore, but what I'm saying, I've never seen anything like this. A full-page ad.
I'm going to say this for the last time. I 100% do not agree with this payout, but as a Canadian born and raised in a country that is 150 years old, that for 150 years they've been noble, they've been kind, they've had an incredible level of morality and loved their citizens, I believe in my country. So when the Supreme Court of Canada, the highest court in the land, calls it as it is, I'm respecting it. You understand?
Yeah. Yep.
I do not agree at all. At all. Now, I said this to you guys last week. I said this to you on Tuesday, that I believe that legal minds, and the Americans are very smart, that they're one of the most litigious countries in the world. They will find a loophole to make sure that that guy does not see one penny of the $10 million.
That is correct. Yeah.
I believe that they will make sure that the lawyers get paid, because that's usually a covenant, right? Mm-hmm. But anything that was going to him will be frozen. In fact, I read somewhere, I don't know if it was an American paper or a Canadian paper, where they're going to court to get an injunction to freeze those funds.
Yeah, the wife of the victim. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to put the freezer.
So I believe that the Supreme Court of Canada did what they're supposed to do, is uphold our Constitution.
How much time do we have? 'Cause I want to ask you a serious question.
We got time before
Okay.
Phil comes on.
It's a side issue, but it goes
Okay,
to the
go
point
ahead.
of terrorism. We have some Canadian who's being held hostage by some terrorists who are demanding money from the Canadian government. The Canadian government won't give them the money because they don't want to pay for terrorists. A person,
Hi, Perry.
and he gets his head chopped off. One particular example, the terrorists parade him through town as the trophy. Where are his rights? What kind of restitution?
Well, I think
What does he? Not him, but they. They won't pay for terrorists, but they'll pay for someone who actually worked for a terrorist, but he was a Canadian. There seems to be.
I think that the legal language, and unfortunately, my friend, sometimes in the world there's law and there's no justice, and I believe in this scenario there's law. And this is the law. And if you go to court, and I've been many times in my life being in business, most judges, I would say the judges that I've encountered, they look at the letter of the law. That's why a good lawyer will bring precedents and backgrounds, but they will go through the letter of the law. And I think that this case is very different than a tragedy like you just mentioned. Because when I saw the beheading of the American journalist, I couldn't watch the whole thing. It was extremely graphic and disgusting. But it's two different things.
Yeah, it is two different things.
One, you're going to feed other people who do kidnapping, the same where they do in Somalia, where in the waters, right? Where there was a movie with Tom Hanks about Captain Phillips, which is a true story. It was embellished by Hollywood, but it was a true story, based on a true story, somewhat. And you can't, once you start paying, then it'll expand that business. And as hard as the blackmail of life and extortion of life is for people to fathom, right? They cut the guy's head off.
Then change the Constitution. If this does not set a precedent right now, nothing ever will be.
So we're gonna
That's
be-
my opinion. The Constitution will be changed.
I truly believe constitutions need to be upgraded and brought up to where we are today.
And that's
Because
what'll
there's stuff in constitutions that make it illegal to practice homosexuality. There's parts in constitutions that make it illegal to do things that are, I would say, Neanderthal in the way of thinking. So I do not agree with the outcome of the $10 million payout, but I understand it. I totally understand it. And if you don't, then you don't understand your law in your own fucking country.
That Michael Babcock, from what I've read, and I don't know Mr. Babcock personally, I think that him and Steve Eiserman have an incredible respect for each other. And I think that when you have that, when you have great respect for each other, and there's that mutual admiration for what each one is going to do, then everybody's on the same page, you know? But when you have, and they both have the same agenda. I mean, they're both getting paid very fucking well. They're working for one of the biggest sports franchise corporations per capita in North America, if not the fucking world, right? Per capita, I mean, based on the category they're in.
Yeah. And speaking of Eiserman in Tampa Bay, Phil, I'm driving home about
I'm not speaking about Eiserman in Tampa Bay.
All right, no, but I want to.
Fucking point in Toronto.
No.
Finish my thought, then you can speak about Tampa fucking Bay.
No, it was a question for
Fuck's
Phil.
sake, Jesus fucking Christ.
It was a question for
Holy
Phil.
Fuck.
It was a question for Phil.
I'm fucking talking about
Okay, truce.
relationships. So Phil, when you have
I wanna ask Phil a question.
manager and president, what's Eiserman? You fuck me right up. It's worse than being fucking married, you sucker.
How's that going for you?
Phil.
Oh, come on.
So Phil, when you were the president of the Tampa Bay Lightning, you had a great relationship for a while, right, with Terry Crisp?
Well, of course, when you hire a coach, you got to have a relationship with him. I was lucky I had my brother Tony, who I trusted implicitly. And the truth is, you know, when you hire and you get people around you, you got to have the trust, a trust with those people. If you don't have the trust, they undermine you.
Phil, I like Palat, and I think that he's a well-finished player. But I think that Johnson's I think a better goal scorer. I think he's got
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I think that Johnson is a little guy, super speed, reminds me of Kane in the Chicago Blackhawk organization. I think he's a better player than Kane.
No, he's not.
I think he is. I think he is. I think that's my interpretation.
Okay.
I think he's got speed. He's got incredible fucking hands, and he plays like Theo Fleury. He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't know that he's a small guy.
Well, you're right about that. He does. He's not as tough as Theo was. I mean,
But he doesn't know. But
But
I'm just saying that he doesn't show his size. He doesn't give a fuck about going in the corner with a fucking 6'6" guy. He's
Well, he can't give a fuck. If he does, then he won't be playing much.
Yeah.
And he won't be playing long. But one thing for sure, Tyler Johnson is a very good hockey player. I'm not going to say he isn't. He's a good hockey player, and I think that on arbitration he would have won, and then they would have only had 1 year, and then he would have been unrestricted.
I think Tampa did what they had to do.
And also, by signing to a 7-year deal for $5 million, and the way the guy scores, he's tradable.
Exactly. You took the words out of my mouth.
Would he not have it in his contract that no trade, no movement clause?
There's no from
I
what
don't know, I
I read.
haven't heard that.
No, I read that in the contract it doesn't have a no trade in it.
Can he play center, Phil?
Yeah, I think
He can play. He can play wing. He can play center. He can play anywhere.
we need a center like
And
Galchenyuk, Drouin.
well, you don't own the fucking team, so.
The biggest situation with Drouin right now is he goes to Montreal. He's a French Canadian. The pressure on him will be 10 times.
Absolutely.
He was just a guy in Tampa Bay.
Right.
He was a first-round
And
pick.
he's good
Now he goes to Montreal. The pressure right now is not on him to score.
No.
It's the ability to
Well,
handle all the other stuff.
I'm going to make a prediction. I think that he's going to be in his own environment. He's going to enjoy those accolades. He's a hometown guy. The prodigal son's coming there. He's a young guy. He's at the pinnacle. He's at the beginning of his journey, and I think he will be.
Yeah,
in
you're
Montreal.
right, Frank. For as long as he plays well and the team does well, there'll be no problems.
And you know, look at the worst position you can play in Montreal and Toronto is goalie. The worst fucking position. Either you're a superstar or you're a fucking goat. And the what's his fucking name? The goalie that came from the Chicago Blackhawks who beat out Eddie Belfour in Chicago, and Eddie went to
Jeff Hackett?
Jeff Hackett couldn't hack it, and he packed it and left.
Hey, speaking of, Phil,
You want to let the joke breathe.
Let
Okay?
it breathe.
Let
You can't breathe there. There's no oxygen.
Take out the
was
bottle and let it breathe.
What
for
I'm
the
just
world.
saying to you is, Carey Price, he was a kid. You know, when they lost against Boston at was it a second year or third year that he was with the Montreal Canadiens, they could have turned on him, Phil. They did not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that Nolan Patrick's going to be a hell of a player.
Well, he's a big guy. He's a smooth skater, smooth operator, very talented. You know, what I look at when I see these kids now that are coming into the NHL, I try to backtrack and see how much they loved the game when they were playing junior, right? And and this guy loved the game, just like Tavares, just like my favorite story is. I love Connor McDavid, I really do. But Austin Matthews actually was going to be a pro baseball player, almost like you, Phil. And he
was a better ball player than me, a better athlete than me, for sure. But Austin Matthews, I mean,
I love him, but he felt that the game was a little slow for him, right? And he decided, because he's from Arizona, right? Big fan of the Coyotes, big fan of the Gretzky, right?
Diamondbacks.
And big fan of hockey. We're going to talk. We already talked about the baseball. We're going to go to the hockey. So he decided that he wanted to learn to skate. And the story that I read, if it's true, it's true. That as soon as he got on skates, he and his parents are both very athletic, and the big supporter. And he thanks his parents. He got on skates, and right away he could start skating. And apparently he's a very perceptive kid. Like, he picks up stuff. I think this guy's going to be a superstar here in Toronto.
Superstar. He's going to be one of the better players that ever played this game when it's all said and done. So coaches get hard-ons for guys, you know? Yeah. It does happen. It does.
And Babcock had a hard-on for
Patrick Marleau.
Patrick Marleau. He loved him during the Olympics and the World Championship. He wanted him.
So a hard-on would be a positive?
Wanted him.
Usually
Wanted
a hard-on is a negative.
Babcock has a lot of things.
Come on,
A
Frank.
hard-on, he wanted him.
Phil,
Repeat
when you say a coach gets a hard-on, would that not be a negative for the player rather than a positive?
Both. It's both ways. Me, I take it. When you get a hard-on for a guy, it's a negative because you're going to be after him all the time. It's a stupid saying.
I'm just saying.
Wow,
I just want to clarify. A hard-on means you hate the guy's guts. I have a hard-on on that guy.
Signed in Toronto,
Yeah, because you don't want a hard-on to be a positive guy.
I can
I'm just
bet
saying.
you any money that Babcock had a lot to say about that.
About Marleau, you're absolutely right.
Patrick Marleau was on the A list of the great coach, Mr. Babcock. And Mr. Babcock...
No doubt.
Yep.
Mr. Babcock, their deal, that's what he wanted, and he got it.
But that was a point I tried to make, guys, and you guys, I wasn't trying to be facetious or patronizing to you guys. I'm just saying that the coach sometimes, and Bill, I agree with you, sometimes not, but sometimes the coach is your best scout especially a guy of the caliber of Babcock, who's been around and he's coached some international teams. Dominic Moore should have never, ever, ever left Toronto.
Well, Dominic Moore
Brian Burke a call.
What's that, Bill?
Get Brian Burke a call. He's the one that dumped him out of here.
But Dominic Moore is a decent third liner.
He's going to be a fourth line center.
Yeah. But when he was, guys, chime in on it. He was a great third liner in his prime in Toronto, right? Was a guy who played his shift right down to his teeth, right? They should have never got rid of that guy.
Well, there's too much politics in that family. They're all looking for a lawsuit. Look at the brother, Steve Moore. He couldn't play a lick. He ended up falling on the ice, and
that's a good point. That's a
blame Mark Crawford for it.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, but still, I would have blamed Mark Crawford. That was Todd Bertuzzi's darkest hour of his life when he sandbagged the guy from behind. Come on.
Yeah, well, Todd Bertuzzi is the last player in that dressing room that Mark Crawford would have picked. That's why Mark Crawford had nothing to do with it. Bertuzzi wanted to be a hero, and he had a wimp, and he jumped him from behind. That was all Bertuzzi.
I'm not going to argue with you because I respect you, and I think you're correct, and I will agree with you. I don't care what the demeanor of Moore was. That was a coward fucking play to come behind a guy and jump him like that. Especially,
I agree. That particularly a guy like Moore. Why waste your time?
Yeah,
he was a minor leaguer.
And it was the same. It was the same with McSorley when he snuck up behind Donald Brashear and fucking whacked him and knocked him unconscious before he hit the fucking ice.
Just to see him almost in a daze, about to go down.
Well, he was down. He was unconscious.
Saddest.
Check out NSS Live, starring Frank D'Angelo and his celebrity panel of guests, including the legendary Phil Esposito. Tuesdays and Thursdays. NSS Live.